Imagine, just for a moment, stepping through magnificent gilded doors. The air, though, holds an invisible presence, a scent you'd probably want to avoid taking too deep a breath of, because behind all the splendor, the dazzling crowns, the elaborate gowns, and the gleaming golden thrones, the queens of centuries past often held secrets no amount of costly perfume could ever truly mask. Before the sheer luxury of modern plumbing, our daily showers, and that little miracle called deodorant, personal cleanliness wasn't just rare, it was often avoided, and some queens, well, they became legendary for it. Today, we're diving deep into history. We're pulling back the curtain on the astonishingly unhygienic habits of 4 royal women whose personal aroma was said to clear a room faster than a royal decree. We're talking about queens who genuinely believed that washing could actually harm them. Queens who went years without changing their innermost garments, and who relied on thick layers of exotic scents, fresh flowers, and elaborately powdered wigs to camouflage what lay hidden beneath. So take a deep breath. Seriously, you're going to need it. We're traveling back to an era where royalty sparkled with outward splendor, but behind the scenes didn't always smell quite as regal. Isabella I of Castile, the decade of dirty linen. First, let's meet Isabella I of Castile. A towering figure, this woman helped unify Spain and sponsored voyages that quite literally reshaped our entire world. But beneath her crown, she harbored a personal vow that genuinely astounded even her own attendants. During the final grueling stages of the centuries-long Reconquista, that epic campaign to drive Muslim rulers from the Iberian Peninsula, Isabella made a sacred promise. She swore she would not change her linen undergarments until Granada, the last Muslim stronghold, had fallen. Absolutely. This wasn't days or even months. This extraordinary vow reportedly lasted for nearly a decade. Whispers among her court claimed she barely bathed at all, perhaps only twice in her entire life, once as a newborn, and then right before her wedding. Imagine, servants reportedly drew lots just to avoid being near her. Even the royal physicians begged her to abandon this vow, terrified that disease could sweep through the court. When Granada finally surrendered in 1492, the garments she had worn were said to be so saturated with sweat, grime, and the relentless passage of time, they'd become stiff and discolored. Some accounts claim they were burned immediately, as if they were a literal health hazard. Others suggest they were briefly displayed as a relic of devotion, until someone realized the smell was simply too much. Whether every detail is true or slightly exaggerated, Isabella's profound determination to equate suffering with holiness left a lingering mark, not just in history, but quite literally, in the very air of her royal court. Marie Antoinette, Versailles' secret scent. Now let's fast forward to 18th century France and the iconic Marie Antoinette. She captivated the world with her opulent gowns and gravity-defying, towering hairstyle. Yet, behind all that lavish fashion and glittering diamonds, lay a truth far less glamorous. Marie Antoinette did bathe, but it was rare and anything but private. A full-scale event, often held in a room teeming with attendants, servants, and sometimes even members of the nobility, all watching as the queen stepped into a copper tub lined with linen. The water, infused with herbs or orange blossoms, looked elegant, sure, but these baths were infrequent, at best once every few weeks. On most days the queen relied on cloth soaked in alcohol or vinegar to wipe down her body, and those iconic hairstyles, built using animal fat and powder to hold their towering shapes, sometimes decorated with miniature ships. Washing her hair wasn't an option, it remained styled for weeks. Predictably, this meant lice could become a serious issue. Tales circulated that pests sometimes literally crept into the hair of women at Versailles as they slept. Menstrual hygiene wasn't much better. Marie Antoinette used simple cloth rags that were washed and reused, though likely not very thoroughly, with no running water and layers of tightly fitted silk gowns. Irritation and infections were common, and the Palace of Versailles itself, notorious for its dreadful smell, overflowing chamber pots, limited toilets, unwashed clothing. It all contributed to a stench so overpowering that perfume became an absolute necessity, not just a luxury. Marie Antoinette's life sparkled with wealth, but the reality of hygiene in her era was anything but pristine. Elizabeth I. Clean linen, not clean skin. Our next queen, Elizabeth I of England, is celebrated as the brilliant monarch who ushered England into a golden age, but her approach to cleanliness would undoubtedly shock us today. In the 16th century, water was widely considered dangerous. Doctors believed that bathing opened the pores, allowing deadly illnesses to seep right in. Consequently, most people, including Elizabeth, actively avoided washing their bodies. Instead, cleanliness was simply equated with clean linen. Elizabeth was remarkably meticulous about changing her underclothes and gowns frequently, sometimes even daily, which actually made her seem unusually clean for her time. But let's be clear, changing clothes wasn't the same as actually washing the body. Full baths were rare for her, perhaps once a month or even less. When she did bathe, it was a grand production, a copper tub brought into the palace, hot water poured in, and the queen would sit while her attendants gently wiped her with cloth soaked in rose water or vinegar. No scrubbing, no soap, and certainly no privacy. Menstrual care was similarly basic. Elizabeth used thick cloth pads, known as clouts, which were washed and reused, often while still stained. Tight corsets and heavy layers of clothing made the experience even more uncomfortable. Her ladies-in-waiting were acutely aware of her cycles, but the subject was simply never openly discussed. Despite her glorious public image, Elizabeth I lived with the same hygienic challenges as everyone else of her era. Limited personal cleanliness, and a constant battle to mask unpleasant realities with heavy perfumes and elaborate fashion. Catherine de' Medici, the scented shield. Our final queen, Catherine de' Medici of France, was far more than just a royal consort. She was a master strategist, a shrewd diplomat, and one of the most influential women of the 60s. But beyond her political genius, Catherine carried with her a peculiar reputation. She ruled not just with power, but with perfume. Catherine harbored a profound fear of bathing. Like many of her contemporaries, she believed that immersing oneself in water could open the pores and invite deadly illnesses into the body. This fear was so intense that she avoided baths almost entirely. Instead, she developed a solution that would define both her personal image and the entire culture of the French court. She turned to fragrance, not as a luxury, but as a daily shield. Rather than cleanse her skin, Catherine would lavish herself with an extraordinary array of perfume. She was known to literally drench her body in rose water, musk, ambergris, and other exotic, powerful scents imported from distant corners of the world. These fragrances weren't applied lightly. Catherine wore them in layers, so potent you could smell her before she even entered a room. Her approach to scent became almost ceremonial, and she quickly transformed the art of perfumery into an essential part of courtly life. One of her most famous innovations was the creation of perfumed gloves. At a time when everyone bore the weight of unwashed clothes and the omnipresent odor of poor hygiene, Catherine's perfumed gloves became a sensation across Europe. Crafted from fine leather and soaked in specially blended oils, these gloves not only made hands smell divine, but also left a cloud of fragrance lingering around the wearer. It was Catherine's ingenious way of navigating an environment where unpleasant odors were simply everywhere, from nobles' sweat-soaked garments to their rotting teeth. Catherine's use of fragrance wasn't just for her own comfort, it set the standard for the royal court. Her cloud of perfume became a form of aromatic armor, shielding her from the foul air of palaces that were rarely cleaned and often overcrowded. Chamber pots frequently overflowed, linens were seldom washed, and fresh air was in short supply. In such conditions, perfume became more than a fashionable accessory. It was a practical necessity. Her influence on European fashion and culture was immense. Catherine de' Medici made perfume synonymous with elegance, refinement, and even survival. Those who wished to fit into the sophisticated world of the French court had little choice but to follow her example. Perfume houses flourished, and the art of blending oils, herbs and flowers into complex fragrances became a thriving industry. Catherine truly cemented perfume's place in European society. Her life was a testament to how even the smallest personal habit, in this case, avoiding water, could ripple outward and profoundly change the world around her. Can you truly imagine living in a world where washing yourself was believed to be dangerous, where perfume stood in for soap, and where the royal garments you saw changing daily were far, far cleaner than the body beneath them? These queens ruled vast nations, commanded armies, and shaped the course of history. Yet behind the dazzling jewels and polished appearances, they endured the very same unhygienic realities as everyone else in their time. Palaces may have sparkled with gold, but the air often carried the heavy scent of unwashed bodies, overflowing chamber pots, and the constant attempt to mask it all with layers of strong fragrance. Life was luxurious in appearance, but harsh in reality, even for those at the very top. History often paints us a picture of elegance and refinement, but the truth is far more complicated, and at times a little shocking. So, I have to ask you, could you have endured even a single day in such a world without the comforts of running water, soap, and modern hygiene?